In this video, I'm going to show you 15 camera accessories that are going to change how you use your camera. A ton of these are super cheap, and once you start using them, you'll never look back. And so, let's just get started. So our first accessory is going to be a rotatable camera plate. You can see now I can rotate the camera freely without having to take the camera off. Now that a ton of content is filmed vertically, you can now change this to shoot in portrait mode in less than half a second. When you use an L plate, it covers the access to these ports. And so once you mount this onto the tripod, you won't actually be able to access those. So these plates are actually Arca Swiss compatible, so you can basically use these on any tripod. And if you're wondering, this doesn't block any of the buttons down here, so you can still actually change your lenses with this installed. The next three accessories are actually ergonomic accessories, and ever since I've started using these, I buy them for every single camera. So the next little accessory is actually this thing. It's this thumb grip. Obviously, cameras get heavy, and a lot of the time on these smaller mirrorless cameras, you notice that the grips aren't always very comfortable because they're so compact. But what the thumb grip actually allows me is having a back point of contact that just holds my thumb, and this allows me to pinch the camera together, so I don't have to have this like tight grip on my camera all the time. This one is totally worth it, and I never use a camera without it now. Typically, you'll find a bunch of them that are just installed in your hot shoe, and they'll route in different shapes and forms for your cameras. And the next accessory is an upgraded Eyecup. This is another one that's super cheap, and it's pretty much a no-brainer for me. So you can remove this by just pulling the two tabs at the bottom apart, and it will just slide out. The reason why upgraded Eyecups are awesome is because they cut out way more light, so when you're bringing up your eye to the viewfinder, you don't get all this light spillage as if you're using this one. Bring this to my eye, there's still gaps. This, no gap. We've all had that situation where you've been outside for an hour or two and you're getting a little bit of sweat. Bring your viewfinder up to your eye and you take a few photos, and then you take your camera away and all you see is this massive nose mark on your viewfinder, and it's just super gross. With these give you a little bit more separation. The chances of you contacting your LCD screen is gonna be way less. This next one is actually for ergonomics and aesthetics, and it's actually a leather case. If you're gonna buy one of these, make sure it's real leather and aluminum base plate. That's how you know you got a good one. And because this is a metal plate, you still have access to a 1/4 inch through plate here. Now means you don't have to keep taking this on and off to put tripod plates on or anything like that. I'm gonna change out lenses here because this thing is too big. Just look how nice this looks, and it also gives protection all around your body. And then it also extends the grip down, so you actually have a full hand grip for your pinky as well. This makes your camera look a lot more vintagey and casual, so it makes it look like the camera is not as expensive as it actually is. This next accessory is for cameras that have overheating issues, and if you're a videographer, this is going to be an awesome solution for you. And it's this little cooling fan for your camera. If you have a camera with overheating issues, you definitely have seen this icon before, which basically is your camera saying it's getting too hot and it's gonna stop recording and shut down. If you're on a video shoot, it basically just means you can't use your camera for 10-20 minutes. So this little fan comes to the rescue and just adds a little bit of ventilation to your camera, so you can extend your film time by another 10, 20, 30 minutes even. These are super simple. There's a bunch of different companies that make these, but this one just suction cups to the back of your camera, and it just works off battery, so you don't even have to worry about plugging it in. You can also run this off the USB connection and just get infinite runtime if you need it. It's also small and light enough where I just keep this in my bag as a worst case scenario. Back in the day, I wish I had these because this actually would have been a lifesaver. I had this one time where I was shooting in the winter, but we had to shoot in a greenhouse. Even though it was dead of winter and it was like -10 outside, the greenhouse was so warm that it actually caused my camera to overheat, prolonged my shoot by another hour, just because I was trying to cool the camera down in the middle of an interview. This next accessory is super versatile. These are extension tubes. Basically converts any lens into a macro lens. The only trade-off is it won't be able to focus to infinity anymore. You see that extension tubes will have a number on them, and it will say 16 millimeters or 10 millimeters, and that's actually explaining how thick this is. Depending on this number, it's adding that to your focal length. This is a 35 millimeter lens, and this is a 10 millimeter extension tube. So this is actually gonna look like a macro 45 millimeter lens. And if you want, you can actually stack these to get even more magnification without actually having to spend a bunch of money on a real macro lens. My next accessory is one of my favorites, and it's a capture clip from PGY Tech. A lot of people like the Peak Design capture clip. However, I think PGY Tech did an amazing job on this one and is a way better design. It just opens up like like this, and it has a clasp system. You can just adjust it whatever way you need, ratchet it down. This takes me 2 seconds to take it off a bag and put it onto another bag. And I actually love using these with small sling bags. Now this is a 3-liter Peak Design bag, and this capture clip can slip in right here. A 3-liter sling bag is not a big camera bag, and I actually use this bag more like a camera strap than a real bag. I can adjust it on the fly if I want to hang it off to the side, or make it really tight and have it high on my back so I know it's always there. Realistically, this is how I would use a camera strap anyways. Now I can hold an extra lens or extra batteries, everything in this small bag, and it's not a whole lot of weight. And then I can also unplop this off and be ready to shoot. And if you're worried about this thing falling off, it has a lock mechanism here, so you can't accidentally take it off. This actually leads me to my next accessory, which is a camera clutch, and this works perfectly with this system. Now, I have a ton of camera straps, but this is the one I use the most. It's kind of like a wrist strap, but it goes around your hand, which is perfect for this system, because if I had a wrist strap or a shoulder strap, it wouldn't be an easy process to let it go. However, now when I need access to it, I quickly put on the clutch, take it off. Now I'm just ready to shoot. And when I need to put it away, just drags and drops behind me. This is my favorite setup. Next one's basically a no-brainer. If you have like a bunch of tripods or rigging equipment or anything like that, you always need Allen keys. This one is the Smallrig Multitool. Pretty much like 99% of the time, this has the exact tool I need to do any camera rigging. Unlike other multi-tools, this one is camera specific, and it doesn't carry all the extra fluff of like scissors and knives and pliers and like all that stuff. These are just so good, and they're relatively cheap. And it also has these little 1/4-inch mounts where I'll usually keep a spare one installed in case I lose one from my tripod or something. If you don't have one and you have a bunch of camera equipment, it's just good to have. These next 3 are for camera maintenance, and if you want to keep your camera for a long time, these 3 are really just a must, and you should buy these ASAP. The first one's gonna be a blower. These are basically just to blow dust off your lenses and your sensors without actually having to touch them. These can be super cheap, and you don't need to buy a super fancy one. When it comes to camera sensors, you should never use compressed air. If you use compressed air on your sensors, it can even send that piece of dust deeper into your camera and cause other issues, and you don't want that. Also, compressed air, if you hold it at the wrong angle, can actually shoot the liquid out. If that goes on your sensor, that's really bad. And sometimes when you use compressed air, it can actually shoot the little straw out and send that flying across the room, and if you aim that at your sensor, it could scratch it. So compressed air is just never a good idea, and you really don't need that much air power to knock off dust. When it comes to sensors, just use a manual one. It's basically fail-proof. All you have to do is point your camera upside down and shoot some air at it. The next accessory is lens wipes and sensor wipes. Now, sensor cleaning sounds scary, but it really isn't. All you need to do is make sure you get the correct wipe size for your sensor. Depending on your camera might have a sensor cleaning mode, so you can turn that on first, and it'll shake the sensor to clean it. Put your camera down and just use your lens wipe, and you just want to do one clean streak forward. That's basically it. We just performed a sensor clean. Lens wipes are just good to have in your camera bag just because you never know what's going to happen, and you might just need a wipe and you might not have anything around. If something oil-based lands on your lens, you don't want to smudge that around because it just gets worse. So you just grab a lens wipe and you can just clean that off, and these things are dirt cheap. And another note, you don't want to use alcohol or any other harsh glass cleaning solutions because those will just strip away your coatings from your lens. So you want to use something dedicated for lenses. You never know when you're going to need it, but when the time comes, it is so essential to have. The last camera accessory should be Super Lube, which is just silicone grease. And you want to use these on your filter threads. If you ever had that problem where your filter is stuck on your lens, it's because the filter has somewhat seized and started merging together with the lens. If you use silicone grease, it adds an extra bit of lubricant, but it also keeps a microscopic layer between the filter threads. They're not in contact and merging. If you prep your filter threads with silicone grease, you'll never have this problem. This is one of those things you might only have to reapply maybe once every 3 years to your filters. So a tube like this is gonna last a lifetime. Now, if it's already too late and you already have the filter seized to your lens, if you try squeezing too hard, you're actually causing the filter frame to bow and it's actually wedging it even tighter. I actually don't personally own one of these, but it's a little wrench that looks like this that applies grip evenly around the entire rim. So you're not flexing the filter in some weird way. However, if you do the silicone grease and prep it correctly, you should never have to use one of those. The next accessories are gonna be for storage of your files. SSDs are great because they're super fast. The reason why you want to use these is because everything in here is solid state, which basically means nothing in here is moving. However, with hard drives, if something gets dislodged or gets smacked or banged around, the disks inside that are actually storing your media can shift. Basically, if that ever happens, all your files on that are going to be toast. However, I wouldn't use these for long-term storage, and I would actually get a system like this. This is one of my RAID storage units. So this is essentially 4 hard drives. However, they all work in tandem together. And so this actually, when you use this with your computer, actually acts as one hard drive. Essentially, it stores your information across all 4 of these drives. If any one of these hard drives fail, I still have all my information. So I can pull out whichever hard drive that failed, replace it, and it will fix itself, and I won't have any file loss. On an SSD, if this fails, this is gonna be toast and you lose everything that's on it. This is one of those things, if you buy into it, you wanna get way more headroom than you actually need. Once you fill these things up, it's really hard to replace, so you wanna buy a system that you can grow into. Basically, this is great for short-term storage. This is what you want to get for long-term storage. My last accessory is gonna be in-body camera filters, which are these things. These are filters that are installed between your sensor and your lens. I actually do a deep dive of these filters in this video, so if you want to know more about these, you can check out that. Now, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, or if you want to stay in contact for future videos, consider subscribing. And until next time, ciao.